Guatemalan law enforcement forces have violently repressed the migrant caravan attempting to reach the United States. Chilean human rights organizations and relatives of political prisoners have mobilized to demand their release. Tunisian President Kais Saied has urged residents of a suburb in the northwestern outskirts of the capital to cease rioting. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. Guatemalan law enforcement violently repressed the migrant caravan that intends to reach the United States. According to the latest reports by our correspondent in Honduras, Hilda Silvestrucci, there are several minors among the caravan members, mainly babies and toddlers, and some of them are suffering illness. Military personnel launched tear gas at the crowd to disperse them and prevent them from reaching border crossing points. Our collaborator Santiago Boton has also offered other details regarding the situation. As Boton tweeted, the largest number of Hondurans and Salvadorans still remain at kilometer 177 of the highway Vado Hondo in Chiquimula, Guatemala. This morning, security forces installed a second cordon at kilometer 137 in Zacapa, where a group of Hondurans managed to advance and evade the first barricade. Guatemalan Foreign Minister Pedro Brolo announced that his country will not allow the entrance of the migrant caravan coming from Honduras after accusing the neighboring country of having violated the regional agreement to prevent the transit of migratory caravans to Mexico.
Mexico had already reported, as we had done in the joint statement, that we would not allow the illegal and irregular entry of any caravan participant. Mexico in turn was very firm and has already prominent elements of Mexican national security forces. What we are wanting is to prevent them from continuing on their trajectory to reach the Mexican border, where they won't be allowed to pass. We therefore request you, proactively and kindly, in a very respectful manner to the government of Honduras, to collaborate and act proactively with its partners, with its neighboring allies, so that we can mitigate any orderly manner, regular and safe, the return of all participants of this caravan, to minimize the eventual impact that may occur.
In Panama, construction workers began protests to demand their inclusion in the social security negotiations that are being installed this Monday. The Single Union of Construction Workers began street mobilizations and marches throughout the country in order to demand that the sector would be included in the government agenda of the so-called National Dialogue on the Social Security Fund, which includes proposals on various social welfare rights. However, workers, organizations and other social sectors have expressed their rejection of the national meeting as they consider it to be exclusionary, adopting decisions behind the backs of the majority. This Monday, Venezuelan Attorney General Tarek William Saab offered statements regarding the arrest warrants issued against several citizens who were illegally named directors of Citgo, the U.S.-based subsidiary of the Venezuelan oil company PDVSA, by the previous National Assembly. The move meant to this misappropriation by these figures of Venezuela's assets through the U.S. sanctions applied against the company.
These former lawmakers, without having any authority to do so, announced the appointment of a senior member of the Citgo Board of Directors, and on January the 8th they announced the appointment of a new president of the company. I repeat, these are only excuses to give continuity to the theft they have been carrying out. For this reason, on January the 11th, an arrest warrant was requested, as well as security measures consisting of a prohibition on the scale of movable and immovable property, the freezing and immobilization of accounts, and search and seizure warrant consisting of a prohibition on the transfer of movable and immovable property, the blocking and freezing of accounts, and the search warrant against the citizens José Ramón Pocaterra Esparza, illegally appointed as a member of the Board of Directors of Citgo. Andrés Felipe Yrigoyen Luna, illegally appointed as the new president of the board of directors of CITGO.
Likewise, the Venezuelan Attorney General stressed that both citizens are charged with the crimes of conspiracy, usurpation of public authority, money laundering, criminal association, and obstruction of justice.
Charged with the crimes of conspiracy, usurpation of public authority, money laundering, criminal association, and obstruction of justice. I must recall that the fact of proclaiming himself as the president and appointing a CITGO board of directors undertaken by the unmentionable individual, today repudiated not only by the Venezuelan nation, but in absolute disrepute at the international level, along with his henchmen, has prevented the Republic from exercising an adequate defense against the lawsuit filed by Crystal X in a federal court of the United States. The authentic representatives of Venezuelan state were prevented from acting.
The Venezuelan government sent shipments of humanitarian aid to Brazil on Sunday to address the health crisis in that country. President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, said a convoy of trucks will transport at least 136,000 liters of oxygen to the Brazilian city of Manaus, amounting to at least 14,000 oxygen tanks. The convoy entered Brazil this Monday through the municipality of Pacaraima, in the state of Roraima. The Venezuelan president also urged the government of Jair Bolsonaro to address the demands of the Brazilian people and pointed out that solidarity is a key element in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Brazil's public prosecutor's office has opened an investigation into Health Minister Eduardo Pezuelos on his handling of the health crisis in the state of the Amazonas. The prosecutor's office granted the minister a period of 15 days to deliver all documents and information concerning the compliance with established measures. The latest epidemiological report shows that since the beginning of the pandemic, the region has registered nearly 230,000 COVID-19 cases and over 6,100 fatalities. The state of Amazonas has seen the collapse of its health system due to the lack of oxygen in hospitals in the state capital of Manaus, while there is a record increase in admissions due to infections. At the same time, in Sao Paulo, the vaccination campaign against COVID-19 continues. In Colombia, the violence continues as a new massacre was confirmed on Sunday night in Cauca department. Local authorities reported that armed men entered a sports complex and shot 3 young men in the neighborhood of El Recuerdo in the city of Popayán, capital of Cauca department. The incident is the 4th massacre of 2021. The National Security Guarantees Commission plans to meet this Monday to address the acts of violence that are rocking the South American country. It is worth remembering that during 2020, there were more than 80 massacres in Colombia. Social organizations and the international community have denounced and rejected all these acts of violence. This Monday, the government of Bolivia declared a red alert in several departments of the country after heavy rains over the weekend affected more than 13,000 families. Bolivia's Civil Defense Deputy Minister Juan Calvimontes on Sunday reported that torrential rains unleashed flooding and infrastructure disasters in several urban and rural regions across the country. Floods caused by the heavy rainfall have led to the loss of multiple homes and crops in La Paz and Cochabamba. The authorities also announced that the storms caused the death of 1 person, as well as damage to some of the most important highways of the country. Rainstorms mainly hit the Cochabamba department, where the Duralit Canal overflowed, causing mobility difficulties for at least 400 families. And we'll go now to a short break. Follow us on Twitter at teleSUR English and Gladys teleSUR.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Sean todos muy bienvenidos a Vidas. Hay lugares donde el arte se unifica con el orgullo de los pueblos. Y esos lugares están llenos de colores, alegría, pasión, tradiciones, arraigo, valor y entrega.
Real lives. Fridays. Only on teleSUR. Innovation, science, the technological breakthrough and its influence in society.
Viajeros del saber, el futuro está aquí.
Atomen. Monday, only on teleSUR. A review of the world news that investigates, incites analysis and induces criticism, because every event has a context.
Pusimos el punto net.
Dot in the eye. Saturday, only on teleSUR.
Welcome back to From the South. In Chile, human rights organizations and relatives of political prisoners demonstrated in front of the courts of justice to demand their release. Organizations of the families of those detained during the widespread social unrest and anti-government protests of October 2019 are demanding that the judicial authorities immediately release all the detainees, as well as calling for justice for the victims' repression at the hands of security forces of the Sebastián Piñera's government. They are also demanding the approval of the General Pardon Bill and the creation of resolutions that respect and defend freedom of expression and human rights in the country.
To install, very importantly and prominently in the upcoming Constitutional Convention, is precisely that human rights be the foundation of the huge umbrella of completely new legislation in Chile. A country where human rights are not respected is not sustainable in the present, or in the medium term, or in the future.
U.S. defense officials say they are worried about an insider attack or other threat from service members involved in securing President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. The threat is prompting the FBI to vet all of the 25,000 National Guard troops coming into Washington for the event. The massive undertaking reflects the extraordinary security concerns that have gripped the Capitol following the deadly January 6 riots at the U.S. Capitol by Trump's followers. The action also underscores fears that some of the very people assigned to protect the city over the next several days could present a threat to the incoming president and other VIPs in attendance. Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy said Sunday officials are conscious of the potential threat and warned commanders to be on the lookout for any problems within the ranks as the inauguration approaches. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Chunying said Monday China will sanction certain officials of the United States for their egregious behaviors on affairs related to the country's Taiwan region.
In light of the wrongdoings of the U.S., China has decided to impose sanctions on the U.S. official in charge who have behaved badly on the Taiwan issue. The U.S. must immediately stop meddling in Hong Kong affairs, immediately stop interfering in China's internal affairs under various pretexts, and endangering China's national security, and not go further and further down the wrong and dangerous path. The so-called fact sheet is just another list of lies concocted by the U.S. side, fully reflecting the attitude of U.S. politicians concerned, who put public safety aside for their own selfish interests, disregard life, defy science, indulge in promoting conspiracy theories, and nearly spread political viruses.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Monday that Russia has no proof of opposition leader Alexei Navalny poisoning from Western countries, except for Navalny's testimonies.
Navalny says, Russian Federation and personally, President Vladimir Putin poisoned me, and this is perceived by the West without any rejection. But we have facts, and only in the form of all that Navalny testifies at interrogation of German law enforcement structures.
government of Norway disassociated the recent deaths of more than 30 adults associated with the inoculation of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine against COVID-19. The Norwegian Institute of Public Health assured the press this Monday that no relationship had been established between the doses of fatalities recorded after receiving the COVID-19 vaccine. The Health Institute also indicated that 13 cases were analyzed in depth, detailing that all the victims were elderly people who presented serious pathologies causing their fatality. However, the Norwegian Drug Agency reported that the side effects of vaccines may have contributed to the fatal outcome of the victims. In the United States, at least 55 people have died after receiving the COVID-19 vaccines produced by Moderna and Pfizer-BioNTech pharmaceutical companies. According to data from the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, a number of patients died few days after receiving these vaccines. Most of the deceased were identified as people at risk because they were over 66 years old. In addition to the fatalities, authorities reported 96 life-threatening events following vaccination, as well as 225 admissions and nearly 1,400 visits to the ER. U.S. health authorities stated that the vaccine side effects are being investigated, while insisting that despite these incidents, they continue to consider the vaccines to be safe. Germany's health minister said the country will step up its monitoring of coronavirus variants amid concern that some mutant version could spread faster or cause more serious illness.
We have decided to massively promote the analysis of coronaviruses and to make the data analysis from such analysis mandatory to a central body, the Robert Koch Institute. As a general rule, at least 5% of all positive tests should be genome sequenced. The analysis of the coronavirus thus becomes an integral part of pandemic surveillance. These days, I keep reading that everyone is talking about the British or English virus. I think we didn't talk about the Chinese virus in the spring for good reasons. When presidents around the world talked about the foreign virus, we very consciously didn't go along with that. I think we should just talk about viruses that may have been discovered in the UK or in South Africa or now in Brazil. But this virus has no nationality and neither do the mutations.
UK Health Secretary Matt Hancock on Monday said that the number of those in the UK hospitals from COVID-19 is now the highest that it has been throughout the pandemic, with one person admitted to hospital every 30 seconds.
Today, 37,535 positive cases of coronavirus were recorded. The NHS is under significant pressure in all parts of the country. There are 37,475 people in UK hospitals with coronavirus. That is the highest that it's been throughout the pandemic. And someone is admitted to hospital every 30 seconds. And sadly, today 599 more deaths were recorded. That's 599 more people who've died from this terrible disease. Today,
and we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us.
Pakistani journalist Tariq Ali analyzes the international media influence driven by the empire, acts as an analysis of political, economic and social life throughout Latin America through our stream and website in English, a critical space committed to truth to determine the conjuncture that moved the world today. The World Today. Mondays on teleSUR.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Sean todos muy bienvenidos a Vidas. Hay lugares donde el arte se unifica con el orgullo de los pueblos. Y esos lugares están llenos de colores, alegría, pasión, tradiciones, arraigo, valor y entrega.
Real Life. Fridays. Only on teleSUR. Innovation, science, the technological breakthrough, and its influence in society.
Viajeros del saber, el futuro está aquí.
Atom. Monday, only on teleSUR.
Welcome back. Tunisian President Kais Saied met with residents of Etadamer, a suburb of the northwestern outskirts of the capital, and asked them to stop nighttime riots. According to reports, Tunisian authorities arrested more than 600 people and deployed troops on a third consecutive night of riots, mostly by young people in the working-class districts of several cities. The social unrest comes amidst the economic crisis worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic that has sparked rapid inflation and high youth unemployment, leading many people to leave the North African country. According to police, some of those arrested had thrown stones and clashed with security forces, leaving 2 police officers wounded. And the Central African Republic's Constitutional Court confirms President Faustin Archange Touadéra's victory in elections last month, in spite of a turnout suppressed by armed groups, which was little more than a third. Daniel Ledrand, President of the Constitutional Court, announced the polling results.
The candidate Faustin Archange Touadéra, having obtained an absolute majority of the votes validly cast, is declared elected in the first round President of the Republic.
And Central African Republic nationals reacted to Faustin Archange Touadéra's victory in the last general elections.
The re-election of the head of state, Mr. Touadéra, is a man who has started to do well, and we think he will continue to do well until the last moment. You see what is happening. The people are with him, despite rebels, despite the CPC. The president has been re-elected, so congratulations to Touadéra. Thank you very much, and good luck to him. We are already living with this fear, the fact that they wanted to boycott, they wanted to hinder these elections, and we stood our ground. The fear is there, but we are Central Africans and proud of it. This country belongs to us. It is not the country of a single individual. It is the country of all the Central Africans, and the head of state, as the supreme head of the armies, as the first authority of this country, can take his responsibilities so that peace can return and people can live in this peace.
Schools in Moscow also reopened on Monday with pupils back to classes after a month of studying remotely. Schools have been closed since October amid the spread of COVID-19. Special measures are being undertaken to minimize the spread of the virus inside schools. Before entering classes, temperatures are measured, breaks and other activities are organized at different times to avoid interaction between children. According to Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin, if a single case is detected, the entire class will be forced to shift the online education. Universities, colleges and other education facilities will remain on remote learning until January 21st.
Emotions are overwhelming. At last we met with children after such a long period. It's great. I even decided for myself that the first week I will not be strict. This will be an entry into the educational process. There will be elements of repetition.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas announced last Friday the first Palestinian elections in more than 15 years, setting legislative polls for May 22nd and July 31st presidential vote. The statement said Abbas expects polls in all governorates of Palestine, including East Jerusalem, which was annexed by Israel following the 1967-day war, but is considered occupied territory. Also, Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, has welcomed a presidential decree issued by Palestinian authorities, President Mahmoud Abbas, to hold the Palestinian elections.
I was pleased to hear the news of the election announcement. We hope it can be a new chapter for the Palestinian people and the good beginning of a solution to Palestine's internal divisions. I will definitely participate in the elections and invite all Palestinians to participate.
Announcing the elections is a good thing, but people here still do not fully believe, because we have been suffering since 2006 till now. We always hear promises that the situation will get better, but unfortunately things do not change on the ground.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.